I think what the fans want to know is, like, who are you holding people accountable for this? Why is this how has this happened? And he's not going to roll his coaches, and he's not going to roll his players. So I think that's what's leading to some of the frustration from the fan base, is they felt like they were sold a bill of goods, and now he's not owning up to it. Again, he's used some words, I think, that big picture words, but I think people want some specifics, and I don't know if he's ever going to give them, and I don't know how you handle that.
Yeah, he's used the word disconnect at some point earlier this season too, which is, I mean, that's clear. There was a disconnect between the expectations and then the reality. Like, the unfair question he has to answer in a way, Ira, is, do you know what you're looking at?
Right.
Which is wild, because of course he knows what he's looking at.
Right.
However, if you believe that the run game was going to be the basis by which you do everything, and you're bottom 2 in the country right now at running the football, people rightfully are pissed and saying, well, do you know what you're looking at? Because if that was your assessment in the offseason, and the result is not just worse than Power 5, but again, 131st in the country, like, well, how did you reach this conclusion that this is how you were going to build philosophically for this season? You know?
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. And so somebody just posted in the chat, I didn't get the name, about burying the wide receiver screen, or punting it to oblivion. Rusty said, "Can we bury the wide receiver screen in the sod cemetery?" It doesn't belong there, man. That's hallowed ground.
Yeah.
It belongs somewhere else. But yeah, those don't work. And again, so going back to the running game, yeah, I would like to believe he knows why it's not working, right? I would like to believe he knows. Is there a way he can kind of let people know that he knows? Because I think that's the root of the frustration. Is, again, it just feels like does he realize what's going wrong? Is he equipped to fix it? Is he going to be willing to make the changes? And so I don't know that we're going to get any resolution over that for the next 6 weeks. I think that's going to lead to just more and more angst.
Well, I think the other question too is, does the offense have to look like DJ's offense for Brock? And maybe that's something that coming out of the bye week will change. I'm hoping it does. But what were your thoughts on that? I know that the wrap, you guys had touched on that a little bit about, and I know Corey was feisty about it, but using Brock's legs. Well, I wrote a piece on it. They'd done stuff with Brock, Ira. Like, it wasn't like it's a different quarterback at Memphis. Like, there were things they ran for Brock specifically in emergency work last year, and they didn't really do any of that stuff. It's just kind of wild.
It was strange. And that part of it, I think, again, as we're dissecting, as we're pulling the ingredients out of this misery stew, I think that's one of the other ingredients is things don't seem to make sense. Like, why wouldn't you have tried the Wildcat just to see what it looks like? Why wouldn't you have Brock running more? Why would you have, when you run those bubble screens, why do you always have, it seems like it's always the smaller receivers blocking for the big receiver? Why haven't you played some of these younger guys earlier? Why didn't Brock get a chance earlier? There's so many things that, it's just, there's not, I was thinking about it, there's so much crap running through my head as I'm walking through Costco, William. One thing I thought to myself, if we made a list of all the questions we want answered, how long would that list be? The questions about decisions that were made in terms of the roster, questions about decisions with the staff, questions about play calling, questions about scheme, questions about just the philosophical approach to certain, like, I feel like that list could be over 100 questions. And I just think that speaks to this, and we're not going to get answers. We're not going to get answers probably until after the season.
Do you think Mike has had a serious talk with Alford and Collins yet? Or will that be after the season? This would be an interesting place for it, Ira, because it is the bye week halfway through the year. I mean, what do you think?
I think there's been conversations. I've heard that there are some, influential people who want to have a word with Alford and Collins and kind of express their frustrations. And that's understandable. And I'm sure that they're talking to Norvell about, like, what are your plans? Like, what right now, what are you thinking? But again, I don't know. It's always a weird thing to me in terms of, administrators coming in and talking to a football coach about what he's going to do in the middle of the season, because I'm sure he's in Mike Norvell's mind, he's still evaluating what this season is. So it doesn't seem likely that they're going to give him an ultimatum in the middle of the season. You were 13-0 a year ago. You signed off on all these contracts. I just don't feel like Florida State's in the place right now to have like these ultimatum conversations during the season. I could be wrong, but I think it's more of just constant conversations. Where are things at? Where's it going? What do you need? Because they have to help him get out of this.
Yeah, the what do you need part of it is very important because that also implies commitment, beyond the next season. Because I think that's a big question for any incoming talent. And by that, I mean not just players, I'm talking about coaching potential hires. They want to know that they're not going to be switching laundry in 12 months. Did we overextend ourselves financially to the point where we're saddled with the situation for better or worse? It's hard to say. If they need to turn over some rocks and find some money to make things happen, Ira, I'm confident they will. It's just that, personally, if it ever got to the level of like PE equity, I don't know that I'd be thrilled with that. But they are spending a lot of money in a lot of places, and they did not anticipate to have to spend money on something like staff overhaul this year. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's have they overextended themselves financially? Yeah, probably. I mean, I think a lot of schools are right now because everybody wants to be positioned for when college football is realigned and there's a super league or whatever it is. Everybody wants to be at that table. So yeah, I think they are to some degree, but I don't think the way that question was written, it makes it sound like there's no money to make changes if they need to. I don't think that's the case. I think they will throw good money after bad if they have to, because they know they have to fix this. So in the short term, I think they're not going to hesitate to make changes on the staff if they need to. And then, you're talking about a couple years down the road, probably, if they have to wear it with Mike Norvell, if the next year plus looks like this, then I think they would have to do that as well. But I wrote this in a column last week. Failure in football is not an option. If they don't succeed in football, everything in this athletic program comes apart. Yep. And so they're going to try to fix it no matter what.
Give me one thing, I mean, we lost the bowl streak some years ago. We still have this Duke deal, and that's what comes up next. So, Ira, I'll ask you, I'll turn it into a question. Percentage chance that the Duke streak lives on after next Friday?
Man, that is one that I think is important. It's a silly one, but I think it's important. I think it says something. It's like, what was it? North Carolina hadn't lost to Clemson in basketball in like 50 years or whatever it was.
Yep.
I just those are ones, man. You need to, or Florida started losing to Kentucky. They had gone forever without losing Kentucky. I just think those are seminal moments. Like, they need to keep that streak. So hopefully they'll play hard, man. I think if they play hard, if Brock plays like he did Saturday, you've got a bye week, man. I think Florida State's got a legit chance to win that game. My concern is, do you at some point, again, like, does the defense? How long is the defense going to keep doing what they've been doing? We'll see.
We can't be coming home to the defense empty-handed too much longer. These possessions need not be empty. The one thing I'll say, maybe this juices up camp listen to me, practices a little bit higher. It's just, the second half, after Brock had made some plays and proven that he was in it, like he was invested, you saw guys tapping his shoulder pads, tapping his helmet before drives, during drives, in the middle of plays. There was one throw where he missed Malik Benson, and Malik had awful body language, and Brock ran over to him. And then they exchanged a handshake of sorts of like, hey, man, I need you with me. Like, maybe that kind of back and forth is something that allows guys to play with a little bit more confidence and prepare, even more importantly, to prepare with a little bit more importance.
Man, I don't think you can overstate that. I honestly don't. I think Hakeem, when they had the interception, Hakeem came over. Brock talked to the quarterback, the staff. Hakeem came over. The receivers coach, Ron Dugans, was talking to him. They were kind of explaining that Hakeem, I think, realized he read it wrong. He went over to Brock and apologized to Brock, and Brock was like, no, everything's fine. When Maurice Smith had his bad snaps, Brock went to Maurice to kind of tell him, hey, man, it's fine. I got you. Like, that stuff matters. I mean, if there was one thing that, when you're looking for reasons why it didn't work for DJ, one reason it felt like is it just never really felt like that he was totally one of them. Not his fault. He just came in. He's a one-year rental. But if Brock lays it on the line and he's one of them, that can bring out some of that. And I don't think that's not for nothing, man. I think that stuff matters.